Hey guys, welcome to the Third Perspective podcast with myself, Corey, and Satch. This will be episode 19. And just a reminder, all of our opinions expressed here are our own. Satch, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm glad we're kicking off again and having a discussion. I look forward to these every week.
Yeah, we got some actual good positive feedback on the last couple of episodes, and people are really liking the YouTube thing. I don't know why they want to look at our faces, but
I don't know either.
they seem to really enjoy it. I guess I don't know why they want to watch me cough, but that's fine. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. So I was thinking we were talking a little bit in the green room here before we went live, and I was thinking about something when I was driving home a few days ago, and I was trying to figure out what to make for dinner for my girls, and I realized I was kind of I had a few options, and I could make food, I could get food out of the freezer, you could use the air fryer, the microwave, stuff like that, or I could order food, I could go through a drive-through, and I kept thinking these are really convenient things that we have nowadays, and they're all designed to save time. Like I'm not going to go home, I'm not going to prep an entire meal, I'm not going to take an hour and a half to do it. But what am I doing with all this saved time? And I kept thinking about it when I was going through my day. We have washing machines, we have Netflix, we have, and think of any convenience that you have in your life that doesn't require much input from you to get an end product. So I must be saving a significant amount of time in my day that normally would be taken up by things. So what am I doing with that time? Am I actually saving time, or am I just filling that time up with blank?
Well, I mean, what are you doing with that time? I guess the question we would ask ourselves, like, look, obviously, we live in a time where there are luxuries where we can, you know, there are services available to us where we can take advantage of those services, and they're a lot easier for us. So, for example, we can go to the grocery store and buy our food instead of going out and hunting it or growing it or whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
Sure. So now we've saved time, but I guess the question that I have in my head is like, are we aware that we're saving that time? Like, because we've
Yeah.
been so used to having all of these creature comforts, and are we aware of the fact that we've created more time for ourselves by having these things? Now, I would argue perhaps that we're not aware of it
Hmm.
because, I know what I used to do when I would save time. I'd sit down and watch some TV,
Yes. Yes.
or,
Speaking of the
or
Netflix side of things.
right, or play video games or whatever the case may be, right? So the question is, are we aware? And then next step, if we're aware, what are we doing with that extra time?
Hmm. I think that when I think of my own life, real simple mathematics, we're supposed to be getting roughly about 8 hours of sleep a day. I mean, obviously, science says plus or minus whatever that is.
Hmm.
It's 24 hours in a day, so that leaves 16 if my math's not wrong.
Hmm.
Um, Generally, most people are going to be working 8 hours a day, let's say, just for average. I know there's shift workers. I know there's, 12-hour shifts or longer, 24-hour shifts. But let's say 8 hours of that is made up with work. Let's add another couple of hours for transit time, let's say, depending on how far away you are. So you're looking at about 6 hours left in the day. There's obviously things you're going to have to do. You're going to have to take care of yourself, going to have to shower, going to have to work out, spend time with your family. But there's still, when you figure it out, there's still 2, 3 hours left in the day for the average person, I should say, where there's nothing that is or should be happening in that time. So I think to my own day, I've obviously switched positions back in my job, back to 4 on 4 off things. So some days I have much more time, some days I have very little time. I don't know. I have a big bookshelf full of books I haven't read yet. I think of things to catch up on, like my Netflix list. Oh, I got to make sure I catch up on that program or whatever it is, and then I feel like I've accomplished something because I've watched 4 episodes of Game of Thrones or something. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, 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 no, for sure. I think, man, like, I mean, look, it's everyone has busy lives, right? And it's hard to, well, I don't want to say hard, but it's you're working an 8 hour day, you get, let's say, 8 hours of sleep, and then running your errands, this, that, and the other. You're left with, let's say, 4 or 5 hours in your day.
Hmm.
And I can understand people saying, I just want to relax and decompress here, and
Sure.
maybe watch some TV or whatever it is. And but so for me, I'm always thinking about how do I improve or how do I get better. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to think that way all the time because it can get exhausting from time to time.
Hmm.
But having said that, you were talking about in the green room that you like to make your own sourdough,
Yeah.
right? Your loaves of bread.
Yeah.
Now, I would argue that's time well spent, right?
Mm. Hmm.
Because you are, I mean, let me ask you, why do you make your own sourdough bread? What's the purpose behind that?
For me, it's the act of making something rather than taking something. I find that during the day, I feel like I'm taking things from everybody. So for
Mhm.
me, it's a chance to be intentional. It's a chance to slow it down for the sake of slowing it down. There's certain steps in there I can't speed up. It doesn't matter what I want. If I want it to turn out, I have to take my time. It's almost a forced pause in my
Mm,
day when I'm doing it. And I only do it one day out of a week,
mhm.
but it's the accomplishment of making something. I think it's really important to make something in your day, and no matter how small it is. My kids do crafts and absolutely love it because they make something. It's something new, but I think that's lost as we get older. So I think that's probably, and I mean, I love sourdough. I'm a carbaholic, so I love that. But I think for me, it's like I said, it's the act of making something.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think that's time well spent because you're also in the moment when you're actually making it and it's almost like an artisan sort of perspective. You're trying to do better because you're making it yourself. You don't want it to be not tasty.
Yeah,
So you want to probably do your best when you're doing it.
absolutely.
And so when you're doing that, okay, now you've created something, it's a loaf of bread, but man, there's something there. And then not only that, but then I'm sure your girls see you, baking and prepping, and maybe they get
Yeah,
involved from time to
yeah.
time. And so it's for me, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, that's time well spent, man. That's legit. Even if it takes you a couple hours to make that loaf rather than going out to the grocery store and buying it, which would take you 5 minutes. So I think, if you're spending time doing something, you should probably focus on if it's time well spent. And if it is, then stick to it, man. I
So
don't think there's any issue with it.
So should we be less concerned with the physical amount of time and measuring whether or not something was successful based off the amount of time that we expended into it, compared to, obviously fairly self-explanatory, the quality of what's coming out? I mean, it seems like just to even say it, I already know what the answer is, but what are your thoughts?
I think if you're learning something and trying to improve a skill set and not really focused on the outcome so much, but rather the process of what you're doing, it's always time well spent, in my opinion. Right.
Mm,
And I think look, we don't even know how important or how well that time is spent unless we force or look 20 years into the future and then ask your daughters what that experience was with you.
yeah, funny you say that. I was talking to my wife about this, and you never know what's going to be a core memory for a little one. You know what I mean? A son or a daughter, or whoever you have. I remember I remember going and spending a little bit of time with my oldest daughter, and I think our youngest was at a birthday party or something like that. And it was around lunchtime, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to treat my oldest daughter to some McDonald's. And we grabbed some McDonald's and we drove down to the beach, and I backed into so you could see the water, put the tailgate down, jumped up on top, and we ate McDonald's off the back of my tailgate.
Mm,
We talked about a little thing, little things that little girls talk about, and I threw my hat on her and took a photo, and she was smiling, and I didn't really think much of it. She enjoyed it, obviously she was smiling and laughing, and but to this day, she still talks about that day that we went down and ate McDonald's at the beach together, and will draw about it and things like that. But to me, I mean, it was great. I spent some time with my daughter. It was I love seeing her smile, and I've got a photo from that day, so I always remember it. But to me, it was a day. But to
mm.
her, it's a core memory. It's something she brings up with teachers and stuff like that, and smiles whenever we talk about it. So I think you're right. I think we don't understand the impact that we're going to have on other people in our lives. But I also want to draw that forward. We don't know the impact it's going to have on our life.
Hmm.
And
No,
so
for sure, man. No, for sure. And I think, at least for me, I'm more on the process of that now. I would like let's say a few years ago, I was in that mindset of, okay, go to work and go get the groceries and come home and then rinse and repeat, do it over and over again without really thinking about how to how to properly maximize my experiences,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think now I'm getting a little bit better on at that because now I value more, um, if I have the time and if I can create the time, spending time with individuals or people, because then, or not just individuals or people, but in an activity that is helping me get better and then also have fun at the same time. So, for example, I competed over the weekend at a jiu-jitsu tournament.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks, man. And it was the whole reason, to be honest, was just to go have some fun, meet some
Mm-hmm.
people that I would have never met before.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a Gracie Ballhawk CompNet. I've never competed at one of those before. I've done other competitions, and I entered into that one, and I just was like, yeah, whatever. I hadn't really trained much, right? Like I've been teaching kids classes and I've been running focused more, but I hadn't been training. So my intention wasn't to go, oh, I'm gonna smash, I'm gonna do this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
My because that would be arrogant of me to think that because I hadn't been putting the time and effort in trying to perform at the best of my abilities. So I framed the whole day as I'm just going to have some fun, talk to some people, maybe learn a thing or two, and
Right.
then
Yeah.
and then have some fun. But it turned out well. I did okay, and I won both my matches. And again, I still executed against all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was those 2 or 3 hours was time well spent. Even though it's not a massive tournament or anything, but it was
Mm-hmm.
time well spent for me. I got to hang out with some people. I learned a couple things, and then I jammed out. So it was for me, it was it was a fun experience.
Yeah.
Even if I lost, right? Even
Right.
if I didn't do well or whatever, it would still have been a fun experience because the two people I rolled with were cool guys, and I talked to them, and it was fun.
So how do you measure? I know you mentioned a few things, but how do you measure the value out of that experience? Like, so if our listeners are sitting here thinking, okay, I understand that maybe I'm not assigning value to my time. How did you assign the value there so that you know that was worthwhile?
Before I even attempted doing anything, I framed everything before I even went.
Mm-hmm.
When I registered for the tournament, I framed it because I already understood I wasn't going to be training the way I should have been training.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll give you another example that can maybe illustrate this a bit better. I think it was over a year ago. Again, I jumped into another tournament without really preparing, and I lost like my two matches, and I was out quick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I went into that tournament thinking, "Oh, I'm going to smash this, that, and the other," it would be arrogant of me. So I framed the whole thing as an experience, having fun, learning. If I lose, then take away some knowledge. So before I even went to the event, I already framed some possible outcomes
Mm-hmm.
so that I could use or internalize the information that I got from it and then move forward in a positive way. Instead of focusing, I need to win, I need to win, need to win, I
Right.
focused I focused on I'm going to do my best. I'm going to meet some people and I'm going to have some fun. And that was it.
So you reframed it so that you took value from whatever the outcome was going to be, is what I'm hearing.
Hmm.
So whether or not you were losing, whether or not you were winning, as you said, you framed it as this is going to be an experience. And I think that's an important point that we need to touch base on, because I think in this day and age we're always looking for what the ultimate outcome is going to be, right? What's the maximized amount of benefit to this outcome? So if I'm going to go for a hike, am I going to do it for speed? Am I going to do it for time? Okay, I'll look at the sunset, I'll take a picture for Instagram, and then I'm done and I'm back. But that sort of thing. I think if we're reframing before we get into whatever it is that we're going to do, reframing it so that if this happens, this is the value I'm going to get out of it. If this happens, this is the value I'm going to get out of it, of my time invested, right? I think that's a good point if I'm understanding you correctly.
No, absolutely, man. I don't put like a hard and fast, this is what has to happen.
Yeah,
I just,
yeah,
but I'm like, what? Either way, I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna try hard. Like if I go in there lackadaisical, well, then that's on me. If I do whatever happens, that's on me.
yeah.
But what I control is I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna talk to some people, have some fun, and through that, so whatever I can control, I take full ownership of that, and
Mm,
then that way it doesn't like I it also alleviates a lot of the nervousness when you're into like I'm not sure if like I mean in any sort of activity that people Like I'm sure there's a lot of people that have competed either in jiu-jitsu or any other sport, right?
Right.
And whoever's listening to this, and man, those nerves are a lot, man. Like they they can really affect your game, so to speak. So,
Right.
and that used to happen to me, and I was trying to find ways to um, not have those that anxious feeling
Mm,
affect what I'm doing. And so, what helped me was always bringing it back. I'm doing my best, man. I'm
hmm
actually doing my best. I'm trying my hardest. And if I don't do well, at least that's now I have something to sink my teeth into because I did my best and I didn't do well. Okay, cool. Let's look at what I didn't do well and fix those things and then do my best next time. So it's less of it's all internalized. It's all about me. It's not about the external thing. It's all about me trying to do my best and improve what I'm trying to do, and then be positive in that environment, so that people also are like if people are watching, I also want to be a positive example. I don't want to be some guy who's like getting irritated at the referee or like
hmm
all these types of things, right? Like
hmm
so, it's all I framed the entire event before I even went, what I was going to do and how I was going to do it.
I think we can draw that sort of back to what we're saying about are we saving time or are we wasting time? And I think that if we can be intentional in what we're doing. So if you want to take the time to make your own breakfast, for instance, make it the best damn breakfast you can. You know what I mean? Like put your heart and soul into it. That doesn't mean you're iron chefing it and throwing stuff
Mm,
around the kitchen and calling people donuts like Gordon Ramsay and stuff like that. But if you're going to take the time to make your breakfast, don't be worrying that you should be doing three other things at the same time and screwing up making breakfast because you feel guilty about it. If you're going to take
yeah.
the time, if you're going to choose to do that, be intentional, get the value out of it, invest the time that's required into it, and be happy with whatever the outcome is, framing it that you're probably going to screw breakfast up. It's not going to be as epic as you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, no,
Um,
sorry,
yep.
but I just want to jump in real quick there. For sure, man, and that makes so like we were speaking about breakfast. So I was making breakfast this morning, and I take my like I've been trying to improve my protein pancakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I made some protein pancakes this morning, and I took my time, and they ended up stellar this morning. They were so legit. But speaking about breakfast, right? Because
Yeah.
now I don't want people thinking, oh, everything we got to put all that effort and all. Well, I mean, you don't have to, but if things that you enjoy doing, if you put that effort into the things that you enjoy doing, man, there's so much you get back for it.
And I think there's a difference, and we should clarify. There's a difference between intent and effort. And I
Mm,
think you can be intentional. Everything does not need to be 100% effort all the time. I mean, just at the end of the day, you're just going to wear yourself out if you're doing that.
right.
There might be a couple of people we know that might disagree with that, but for our listeners, we're going to say that that's the case.
Yeah.
But I think there's a difference with having 100% intent in what you're doing. So if you're going to sit on the couch and you're going to watch that movie, man, be okay with watching that movie. Don't be crapping on yourself that you're watching that movie because you're getting nothing out of it. There's no value invested for your time. If you're pissed off that you're watching a movie and you really should be studying or doing this, understand that if that's what you're going to be doing, and I notice I'm referencing a lot of relaxation things in my examples, and you're doing the opposite in yours. So, but like my
That's a
thing
good. It's
is,
a good yin and yang, bro.
yeah. There we go. But if I'm sitting down and I'm going to take the time, we do this little movie night thing that whenever we can, when everybody's together, and we pick a movie that we're going to watch with our girls, and then we go and we get little snacks and stuff like that, and everybody gets a little bowl of snacks that they can eat at the couch. And the idea is, if we're going to do this, we're going to watch a movie together. We're not going to be everybody's going to be on their phone or looking at a book or something like that. We're going to be watching a movie together as a family, and it's an hour and a half that we could probably be doing other things, but we're going to be intentional about it. Again, it's not 100% effort. I'm not doing push-ups while we're doing it, sort of thing, but I'm going to be intentional, and I'm going to take that time and get the value out of that.
I ask a question here, man.
Mm.
On movie night, when you guys do that, do you guys review it amongst each other after? Like just talk about it or kind of so the reason why I ask is usually when I watch movies, man, I like to I like to really dive deep on them sometimes
Mm, mm,
and dissect them and talk to a friend about them and be like, "Oh, did you see this and this thing happening, this theme of this, that, and the other?" And for me, I get even more enjoyment
mm.
after the fact of watching the movie because I've done that.
Oh,
So
interesting. Yeah.
do you do you do that?
If it's just my wife and I, then yeah, we will. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how much I can dissect a Minions movie, but there's certainly some things we do. But we do talk to our girls about it. Like, hey, what did you like about it, or what did you think about it, or if there was a message that I think was important, we might talk about that. We'll use that as a springboard to talk about other things that sort of come out organically from that. It's not like, yeah, you saw what these guys did. You better not do that sort of thing. Like, not that type of conversation, but I'm like, hey, what do you think about that? What do you think about what happened? What do you think you would do if you were in that situation? Oh, really? That's interesting. Why is that? And just a
Hmm.
bunch of open-ended questions to see how those little brains are working. You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
think that's awesome, man. I think it's that also is time well spent, I think. Like
Hmm.
you know, you're not just there's intention there, right? You're watching a film and you're not just blank while you're watching it. You're
Hmm.
engaged into the process,
Hmm.
and then you're taking in the information, and then you're getting excited afterwards when you're talking about it, let's say to your wife, and be like, hey, what about this thing you saw? That it was similar to this movie, and oh, it's kind of like that. Like, you just kind of, it's fun, man. It's so fun to do that. And you like I said earlier, like, man, I can watch like a let's say a Marvel movie, a superhero movie. Like, it's doesn't require that much focus.
Hmm.
But man, I spend at least a week after enjoying that movie because of all the other things that I can dive deep on. I'll go to the YouTube and I'll
Yeah.
watch different reviews on it and some Easter eggs and this, that, and the other. I mean, it's fun, man.
Yeah. So for you, like you said, it's not time wasted, but I think for us when we schedule it, so again, it's not spontaneous necessarily. Sometimes we'll do spontaneous movie nights, but we'll schedule it so the girls can get excited. It's yeah, 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 we get to do this. We're gonna sit down as a family. We're gonna have some treats that we normally wouldn't get. But what it does is I find that because there's that intentional scheduling of it, I know ahead of time if I want to enjoy that, I'm gonna make sure that my dishes are done and any little things that are around that I'm gonna be thinking about are dealt with. So I will pick up the pace. I'll put the effort in prior to that movie to make sure that everything's done so I can focus on the movie. And I find it's a really easy way of being intentional within that moment because if I'm just kind of floating through my day, I'm probably not going to get those things done. Not necessarily in the same time frame or whatnot. And they kind of just get left to the side. Again, am I saving time or am I wasting time because nothing is kind of a priority? You know what I mean? Because things can be done so easily.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of time in a day, or we don't have a lot of time in a day. It just depends on your perspective on how you look at it. We have 24 hours in a day, right? So depending on what you're trying to do or achieve, or which direction in life you want to go in, trying to get that promotion, whatever, right? But 24 hours is a lot of hours, man.
Hmm.
And
Never feels
people,
like it, but
no, absolutely doesn't. And I'm saying it, and I know that it doesn't feel like it, but but having said that, if you were to like really look at, because okay, the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm reflecting back on my days, and I'm like, man, I get a lot of stuff in my days,
Mhm.
right? In terms of like meeting people, acquiring knowledge, working out, all these different things. And
Things that
I
you're
think,
investing in yourself.
right, and I think it's important if people recognize, look, we do have time in the day. Yeah, I know you're going to work. Maybe I have a bit of flexibility because I'm not going to the office.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
so there is a difference there. But hey, I was going into the office, and when I was going into the office, I was still doing all the things.
Mhm.
Now, what's sacrificed? Probably sleep to a certain degree, right?
Mhm.
Because if you're
Mhm.
doing all the things. But for me, I valued that. If I'm getting 5 or 6 hours, but I'm still able to do all the things that I want to do, I'm not going to do that forever, but I'm able to do it for a long period. Excuse me, long enough period of a time to be able to get to a certain stage where I don't have to diminish my sleep as much.
Mm.
And then I can level up my sleep. But I've in those, let's say 2 or 3 months, I've accomplished something because I've diminished my sleep for 2 hours in the day
Mhm.
for 3 months, and then I've raised it back up. Oh wait, now I've gotten something out of that.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. So like, I
Yeah.
mean, I would get up at 5 in the morning. My shift, let's say, would start at like 8. I'd be up at 5, and then I would go for a workout, whatever, get to work. That included my commute time. Now I'm at work, and then after my shift, immediately I'd hit the gym, like at work, and then I would finish in and around. I used to have care and maintenance for the canine,
Hmm.
so I get an hour and a half care and maintenance for the dog, so that would be around 15:30,
Hmm.
3:30 p.m. And then immediately at that time, I would care and maintenance the dog, go to the gym, kick off, and then if I had to, I may or may not do jujitsu, and then from there, daughter stuff, pepper and food, all the other things, and then hit the sack and then do it all over again. Now, does that sound like a lot? Yeah, it was a lot. But
Hmm.
in those moments, I learned a lot about myself that I could do a lot. And that's why yesterday I was able to get up at 5:30, go for a 65-minute run,
Hmm.
go to a jiu-jitsu tournament, compete, and then drive. And that was in Port Moody, so about a 45-minute drive from my place.
Right.
Drive all the way back home after the tournament and go for another run with a group of people. That sounds like a lot, but it's nothing compared to what I did before. So it's all perspective.
Hmm.
But I think it's important to get in the habit of doing multiple things throughout the day and understanding the intention behind it and why you're doing it.
And very, very, or a lot of the things that you were saying in there, we're investing time back into you. And I think that we need to be cognitive of that. Is that if you were going through your day, like any of our listeners, if you're going through your day, like I have in the past, and realized, I don't know what I did today, it's probably because you weren't investing any time into yourself. And you say, well, what does that mean? Does that mean getting all the laundry done? Does that mean making sure the house is spotless? Does that mean that the kids constantly have activities to do, or fill in the blank? What about any of that was invested time back in you? Did you spend time to work out? Did you spend time to read a book? Did you spend time to go to, as we've talked, jujitsu? Did you spend time meeting friends or going for coffee, where it wasn't like I'm in between something between the grocery store and going home, so I'm going to get a coffee? Was any of that invested time back in you? And I bet you'll find on the days that you go, I don't even know what I did, none of it was invested back into you. So you weren't saving time by getting all this stuff done. You're in
Mm.
fact probably wasting it because none of it came back to you.
Yeah, man. And I think here's a suggestion for some of the listeners if they want to, like, I'm not saying, oh, go get up at 5 and go for a crush a run, do this, do that, do this. But here's a suggestion that might be investing time into you,
Hmm.
and it doesn't take a lot of time. Let's say if you want to have 30 minutes, if you get up 30 minutes a bit earlier and you make your coffee at home
Hmm.
and you read 5 pages,
Yep.
2 pages,
Yep.
1 page, whatever it is. Let's say you read a couple pages out of whatever book and you make your coffee and you do that in the morning. That's your morning ritual to kind of get your day started correctly. I bet you in a year, how many books are you going to have read
Hmm.
just from doing that
Hmm.
small little thing every single day? And that's investing in yourself. And once you invest in yourself, and you notice it's only taking like 20 or 30 minutes, and you see the fruits of your labor over such a small period of time, you, I suspect you'll likely increase that time and
Hmm.
start moving things around that aren't as important or aren't as fruitful for you. You might start moving things around because you've seen the value in that thing.
Or rather, like me, rather than taking an entire day to do a couple of loads of dishes or something like that, I get them done super quick in half an hour because I'm intentional to get on to the things that I enjoy. Because, like I said, if I'm not intentional about it, you know what? Those will sit there all day.
Hmm.
You know what? I'll do them at the end of the day when I feel rushed to get stuff done. And again, what have I invested in myself?
Exactly, man. I used to hate doing dishes, man. When my
Mm,
parents used to get on me so, like when I was a kid,
hmm.
dude, like it was unpleasant. So I had a aversion towards
Hmm.
dishes,
Hmm.
and and now I don't like now. What as soon as I'm done with a dish, man, it's clean. It's weird, but it saves me time, man.
Yeah.
Like I eat a meal, I clean the dish, I put it away. Now, easier said than done. I don't have a lot of people in my house. I'm divorced. I see my daughter's here, 2 3 times a week,
Hmm.
so it's not. I understand that there is a bit of a difference there. But having said that, I could still pile up dishes,
Yeah.
right? And I don't. I just clean, boom, done. And then when I go to someone else's house or I visit my girlfriend, I'm like, oh man, like I'm gonna do these dishes. I
I need
can't
you over
handle
at
it.
my house.
All right,
Uh,
anytime, bro. I got you.
Perfect. All right, Satch. So, just for our listeners here, on the topic of saving time, I know we've said a lot of things, but I'm going to hit you up with the top 3 things you think our listeners can benefit from, even small things that are going to take that time that we're apparently saving every day, that we have at our disposal but don't feel like we have, and turning it into time invested into us. So, what are the top 3 things you can think of?
I think a super simple one is get up a little bit earlier and crush a 1 or 2 pages because you do have the time, I think, to do that. I mean, instead of hitting the snooze button, because I know you're tired and I know you want to keep sleeping, but I promise you, you get up, you read a couple pages, and you'll feel like you've done something at least for the day.
Hmm.
Like it's a productive feeling, right? And if you couple that with making your bed and then making your coffee, then you start stacking up those little positive things throughout the day. So one of them for sure, just get read 1 or 2 page, 1 page a day.
Hmm.
Like, just keep it simple.
Hmm.
I'd say that's number one. Oh man, maybe look at your day overall and look at the things that are not really serving you as an individual, right? And if it's not serving you, it's not serving anyone else around you. Because I think the best version of yourself is the best version of for everyone else around you. So it is actually super vital to invest in yourself.
Hmm.
And I can speak from my own experience. I can see the differences. Number three, I'll leave number three to you, bro.
Ooh,
Because, yeah, man, I want to hear what you got.
ooh, that's good. You've kind of taken 2 of my big ones there. Let's see. Um, if you choose to spend your time doing something, choose your time to spend doing that. So, like, again, if you're going to read a book, read your book. Don't worry that you're not spending time with your family. Don't worry that you're not running around the block. Don't worry about anything else. If you're going to choose to spend that time that we have that's limited, then be in that moment. If you're going to make your breakfast or your coffee in the morning, make it for you. Be intentional. Make it for you. Be glad that you spent that time and realize that it's not a waste of time. I guess is probably the easiest thing. I probably just rehashed your 2 points, but
Hey, man, whatever. They're all good, anyways.
all right. Any final thoughts here, Sach, before we kick out?
No, man. This was a good conversation. I enjoyed this one, and again, everybody who's tracking us and watching, keep firing us some of those questions. Anything that you want us to kind of dive into, explore. I mean, not that we're geniuses, we're far from it, but we like
Mhm.
talking and we like bouncing ideas off each other, and so throw them our way, and we'll have some fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a few questions from the last Instagram post we put up about what people wanted us to talk about, and really helpful. We love it. If we don't get to it right away, we'll certainly get to it later, and it helps us. Like you said, sometimes you're just sitting at a bar talking to some dude or some girl, and you're working stuff out, and you don't even know you're working it out. So we're the same thing. We're just not drinking while we're doing this. All right,
Yeah.
guys.
Thanks,
Talk,
guys.